Welcome back. In this video we're going to be taking care of the main menu. The main menu is going to act as a portal into our matchmaking system, so you'll be able to find games in the main menu, and then from there that will take you into a match. And that is to do with sessions and some other Unreal sort of matchmaking terminology that we'll talk about later. One thing that I wanted to do is I want to also get a little loot system set up. So if we go into the pickups folder, you can see there's all these lovely pickups here. We can drop health or whatever into the level. We can drop an assault rifle in. But we want these to randomly spawn throughout the map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make something called a pickup spawner. So we'll go to the blueprint class, make an actor, and I'm going to call this BP underscore pickup spawner. And the goal of this class is it's just going to spawn pickups on the ground. I'm going to add a billboard component up here, add component billboard, and the default billboard's fine. I just sort of want markers so we can actually see these in the level, and drag and drop the billboard onto the default scene route, and that'll make it the new route. So this is the route component. We're only going to have one component in here, and yeah, so all this needs to do is just spawn something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see here. We will add a variable, and we're going to call this potential loot. So these are all the loot items that can be spawned. So I'm going to go ahead and type in pickup, and we're going to select BP pickup class reference. And we want this to be a list of pickup items. So add as many items as you like to this potential loot list, and just note that the more times you add a certain item, the higher the chance of spawning that item. So let me show you what I mean by this. I want a lot of health pickups to spawn. I want that to be a really common pickup. So we'll go ahead and select health pickup 5 times. So there are 5 slots in which you may be able to get a health pickup. We'll make ammo pickups pretty common too. Let's add 3 ammo pickups. And then we'll say that the assault rifle is fairly common as well. So we'll have 3 slots for the assault rifle, and we'll have 2 slots for the scoped rifle. So the scoped rifle, there's a 2 in 12 chance of getting it, or a 1 in 6 chance. And all we're going to do is on begin play, on the server, we're going to spawn these pickups in. So we're going to check that we're on the server. And when this gets spawned in on the server, we're going to spawn an actor. And the actor we're going to spawn, hold control and drag in the potential loot. We want to get a random item from this potential loot list. So how do we do that? The way we do that is we get the length of the loot list, and we find a random number, random integer in range, from 0 to the length of the list, and then we use that to get from the list. So get, connect that up, plug that in there. And the transform is going to be the transform of the pickup spawner. And that's pretty much all we need to do. Now, wherever we place these pickup spawners, loot's going to spawn there. So check this out. I'm going to drag in a bunch of these pickup spawners. We'll put them wherever you want loot to spawn in your game, right? So we might put some here. We might put a bunch of them over here. We might put some over here. It really doesn't matter, but notice when I click on simulate, there's loot, and it spawns completely randomly. It'll get it from the list. And if you want to modify this, open up BP Pickup Spawner, and you can totally change this out if you want. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check this box that says Instance Editable, and what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to change this list for certain spots, certain loot spots. So let's make a little ramp here. We'll just do something weird. I'm going to take a pickup spawner and place it up here. And I'm going to say the loot that spawns on the top of this ramp is special. It's a special loot, and it has a, it will always spawn a weapon, right? So we'll go ahead and delete all of these. And we're just going to have assault rifle pickups and scoped rifle. So now you can modify these on a per actor basis. So You know, this one still spawns the health and ammo or whatever, but this one up here is a special one and it only spawns weapons. Check this out. Every single time I hit play, it'll always spawn a weapon. How cool is that? You can modify them individually. Anyways, with those out of the way, I want to go into adding the main menu. So the first thing we need to do is in our blueprints folder, I'm going to add a blueprint class called game instance. And the reason I'm adding game instance is because later on, this is how we're going to do our matchmaking, is inside of this game instance. So we're going to call this BP underscore game instance. The game instance is persistent across different maps and levels. So whatever you store in there will stay even if the level changes or anything like that. And that's why it's a good place to do our matchmaking in. I'm going to go to Edit, Project Settings, and under Maps and Modes, there's an option at the bottom here to change the game instance class. And in fact, I'm going to call this BR game instance. So BR game instance. And now if we click the drop down and select BR game instance, that's the instance that's going to be used. Okay, let's go into our BR game mode. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to make another game mode. So if we hit Control W to duplicate this, I'm going to make a game mode just for the main menu because the main menu has its own set of rules. So I'm going to call this BR main menu game mode. And we're also going to make a new player controller. And this is going to be called main menu player controller. And our main menu game mode, we can get rid of all of this stuff here. We don't need that. And we can get rid of this player list and everything. It doesn't need to be there. And if we click on this, just reset all of these by clicking the arrow. The only thing that needs to be changed is the player controller needs to be changed to main menu player controller. Now, in the maps folder, we're going to make a new map and call it main menu. And go ahead and open that up. Now the main menu will be completely black with nothing in it. If you want to add some stuff to the main menu, you can feel free to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it completely black. And we're going to make a new user interface piece that will be the main menu. So we're going to call this widget blueprint underscore main menu. And we'll open that up, and in here we're going to have some options such as find a match, quit, and maybe even an options menu as well. So we're going to put some text in here, so drag and drop some text in, and we're going to make the text be quite big. Let's go for 72 size text, and we'll sort of make that nice and big, and I'll anchor it to the top. I'm going to make the position 0, 0, and the alignment 0.5 so that it's centered nicely, and then click on Align Text Center. And here's an opportunity for you to name your game. I really don't have a good name for my game. I haven't thought of one, so I'm just going to call it Battle Royale. But this is where you would put the title of your game. Now, the next thing that we want to do is add some options. So we'll go ahead and take a vertical box. This is a box that you can add different widgets to, and they will stack vertically on top of each other. So it makes for easy organization, and you'll see that work in a minute. We're going to click on center here, and then set the position X and Y to 0, 0, and the alignment to 0.5, 0.5. And then we're going to set the size to something like 800 by, say, 1000. Actually, let's scale that down a bit. We'll do 800 by 700. Now we need to change some options here. We're going to go ahead and we'll add a horizontal box. This organizes things the same way, except it'll do horizontal organization instead. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a button to the horizontal box. Okay, so that's a good start. Now we'll add some text to that button. And for the text, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make the text black. And we'll say find a match. And then go ahead and make that fill the box horizontally as well. Click on fill. Oh, sorry. You can leave that if you want. The button needs to be set to fill. Once you've clicked fill for the button, go to the text here and then center that. Now we're going to add a checkbox. So go ahead and type checkbox and add that to the horizontal box. And then beside that, we're going to add some more text. So drag that onto the horizontal box as well. This is going to be our option to let our players play LAN games as well. So I'm going to put LAN. And so you'll be able to select this if you want to play a LAN game. Okay. We'll also add a little bit of padding. I'm going to type, say, 10 and then 0. And that'll just give it a little bit of spacing. I'm also going to do the same here, 10, 0. And that looks a little bit better. Now it's spaced a little bit more nicely. The next thing I'm going to do is I'll rename this button to Find Match Button. And in fact, I'm just going to type 10 for the padding. This way it has padding on the sides and on the top. Now I'm going to drag in another button. We'll drop that onto our vertical box. And we need to do the same thing here, drag some text onto it. And for the button, I'm going to set the padding to be 10 units. I'm going to click on the text and make sure it's black. And I'm going to call this the options menu. I don't know if we'll even make an options menu because there's not really a lot we'd need to change, but I'll put the button there at least. And if we have time, we can make an options menu. So I'm going to call this options button. If we do add any options, they'll be very basic ones anyway. And then finally, we'll add a quit button. So go ahead and copy your options button and then click on the vertical box and then just paste it in there. I'm going to call this the quit button, and I'm going to change the text to say quit. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on the quit button, and if you scroll down to on clicked, we're going to add an on clicked that will remove, that will quit the game. So when you click that button, quit out of the game, and that's it. Inside of our BR game mode, we're also going to check the box that says use seamless travel. And this, well, it gives a little explanation here. It loads the level in the background and doesn't disconnect clients. We're going to be using that. And there's also this option whether the game is pausable or not. And we do not want the game to be pausable because it's online. So go ahead and uncheck that box. And at that point, I think that's all we need to do to the BR game mode. So let's go into our game instance. And before we do that, actually, we're going to make something called a travel map. So let's make a new level as well, right next to the main menu. And we'll call this travel map. Because we're using seamless travel, the way it does this is it needs a second map called a travel map. And so if we go to the project settings and go to maps and modes, and then hit the drop down here, you can see there's something called a transition map. Just go ahead and select the travel map there as well. Okay, now we'll go into our BR game instance that we've made. This is where we're going to be making all of the matchmaking for our game. Now we won't do all of the matchmaking in this because there's a bit to do. For now I'm just going to add a variable called useLAN. And if useLAN is checked, then we'll want to make it a LAN game. By default it's not going to be a LAN game, but if you check this box, then it is going to be a LAN game. So what we need to do is I'm going to call this LAN checkbox. And then scroll down to on check state changed and click the plus. So basically what we're saying here is when the check state is changed, we're going to get the game instance, which is responsible for our matchmaking system. We're going to cast it to our specific game instance. And from there, we are going to set LAN to whether or not the box is checked. Like that. Okay. So that'll be responsible for the LAN system. I really don't think we'll do the options menu. We may fit it in if we have time. But yeah, so all we need to do now is add the main menu to the screen. So let's go into the main menu map. And under the world settings, I'm going to set it to use the the BR main menu game mode. If you don't have the world settings menu, you can open it by clicking the window and then going to world settings there. Okay, so we want to go to our blueprints. We want to go to our first person BP blueprints, open up the main menu player controller, and this is where we're going to be adding the main menu to the screen. So to add the main menu to the screen, on begin play, we're going to check if this is a local player controller, because we're doing HUD stuff and that can only be done locally. And we're going to make an event, and we'll call it show main menu. So if we are the local player, show the main menu. Inside of show main menu, I'm going to go ahead and we will create the widget and then select the main menu widget. We need to select self as the owning player. And we're going to go ahead and we can just add this straight to the viewport. I don't think there's any reason to store this in a variable. And there we go. So now in the main menu, if I click play, you can see it comes up with my main menu, and we can quit out of the game. And so far we don't have matchmaking, but there you go, there's the main menu. Pretty simple stuff and not too hard to add. And since this really wasn't a very long video, I'll add a little bit of extra functionality. So let's go back to maps and let's go back to the first person example map, which is where our battle royale is going to take place. And what we're going to do is I just want to modify the player a little bit. I want to add some effects like gunshots and stuff like that. So let's go into the BR character, and when the player shoots their gun, I want to do some effects. Now we already do some effects when we shoot our gun. So let me find the shooting gun stuff. This is my client-side shooting effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spawn a particle system. Spawn particles at location. And under the emitter template, we're going to select assault rifle muzzle flash. Now inside our weapon, we actually have the socket called muzzle flash. And so all we need to do in our BR character with our spawning is we're going to go ahead and get the player's weapon. And we're going to get the first person mesh, or the first person gun. Get first person gun, and then we need to get the socket location, and the socket is called muzzle flash. So go ahead and type in muzzle flash, and in fact we don't just want the location, we want the transform. So get socket transform, and then do muzzle flash, and we want the location in world space. So go ahead and make sure world is selected, and then we're going to break the transform so that we can put the location, the rotation, and the scale in. And that should now work. So let's test it in game. So as you can see, when we now shoot in game, we have this firing effect. It's a little bit over the top in my opinion, but hey, it's better than nothing. I was going to say we could make our own particle effect, but I realized that the prototype weapons actually come with their own particle effects, so I figured we'd just use those instead. Now there's one more thing, that if you shoot your gun, other people can't see that happen. So we need to make that happen for other people, and the way that we're going to do that is if we go into the BR character. So when you shoot, you fire your gun locally, and you also fire on the server. The server then has the opportunity to replicate back to other people. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead after we, when we do the on fired logic here, we're going to make something called a multicast event. And the multicast event, in fact, let me just show you here. I'm going to make a new event, custom event, and I'm going to call this multicast fire FX. So remember, to make an event, you just type T and then a dot, and that's the easiest way to add it. So let's see here. We want to set replicates to multicast. And if you hover over multicast, It says, replicate this event from the server to everyone else. Server executes this event locally too. Only call this from the server. So what this is going to mean is that when I shoot my gun, I can make it appear on everyone else's screen. Remember, it says, replicate this from the server to everyone else. If I wanted to check the reliable box, I could, but you know, muzzle flash showing up for everyone else in the game is not something we need to happen. It doesn't have to be reliable, and you should only really use reliable where you have to use it. Because if your game is lagging, then we can stop calling this function. Unreal is smart enough to realize, hey, if this isn't set as reliable, we don't have to make it happen, and that's really useful for keeping your game's lag down. So I'm not going to mark that as reliable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the weapon of the player. I'm going to make sure that the weapon is valid, of course. And then I'm going to get the third person gun. So get third person gun, like so. And from there, we can go ahead and get the socket transform, just as we did last time. And then we're going to spawn a emitter at location, just like we did previously. We're going to spawn the assault rifle muzzle flash, break that apart, and then plug all these separate things in, just as we did before. So all this is doing now is it's going to happen for other people in the game. So play fire effects for all other players in the game. And we need to call this as well. So multicast, drag up from here and type multicast fire effects, and then click on that. So now when I shoot my gun, other people should actually see that happen. And let's go ahead and verify that that actually works. I did something stupid, by the way, guys. I didn't type in the socket name. You need to provide muzzle flash as the socket name. One other thing that we're still doing that we really don't need to be doing anymore is if you go into our server firing logic, we do that line trace to make sure that we're hitting other players, and we have the draw debug type still on. Just choose none, because we really don't need to see the traces of our bullets anymore, and it's just kind of getting in the way. Okay guys, so now you can see that when I shoot the gun, it's actually replicating to other people, so you can actually see that happening. So there you go. There is the muzzle flash added. One thing that we really still need to get done is we need to work out when there's only one player left alive in the game, and when that happens, then we know the game's over and someone's won the game. So we need to actually add that functionality in, and I think we're going to take care of that in the next video. We also have some matchmaking stuff to do, but I don't think it'll take up too much time, so hopefully we'll be able to check that off in the next video. Anyways guys, I'll see you in the next lesson.